What's good, YouTube? You already know who it is, man. It's your boy Q, aka TheWavMan, man. And we are back with another WaveMonopoly.com tutorial. And today we're bringing you everything compressors. In this video, we're going to be going over everything that you need to know in detail about compressors. And by the end of this video, you will be able to compress your vocals successfully. Let's get into it. The first thing that we're going to do is take a listen to this first example.
I bet you this to get you off my checklist. My dogs, I'm running wild, them people reckless. My people want it all in this song. Them things up on my side, they come in tandems.
Now that you've heard that, let's take a listen to our second example.
I bet you this to get you off my checklist. My dogs, I'm running wild, them people reckless. My people want it all in this song. Them things up on my side, they come in tandems.
So, I know you heard a difference. Now that difference that you heard was compression. The first vocal take was a completely unprocessed, natural vocal take. The second vocal was the same audio take, but instead it was heavily compressed. Now what's compression? Compression is the process of reducing the dynamic range or evening out the volume of an audio signal. Dynamics are basically the span in between the highest, loudest part of an audio signal and the softest part of an audio signal. Just imagine if I was in the room with you right now and I started singing to you. I just started singing to you live in person. It's gonna cost you something, but just imagine it. You're gonna hear me sing loud at times and you're gonna hear me singing very low and soft at different times. Now, when you're recording into a DAW, you're most likely gonna be recording with an instrumental. So if you have your raw, unprocessed vocal in there with your instrumental, you're not going to be able to hear those lower parts as much as you're going to be able to hear those super louder peaks. So what do we use to tame these dynamics? We will use a compressor. A compressor basically takes the loudest peaks and brings them lower in volume so we can start getting closer to those softer levels. Now, it doesn't quite work like volume, okay? We can't just turn it down and turn it up, but instead we control it. We control it with a function called threshold. Now, what threshold is basically us telling the compressor, listen, you are gonna start engaging this compressor after we reach a certain volume level. Now, by how much it compresses is something else that we control, which is called the ratio, which means whenever we go above this threshold, how much we want to reduce and compress this audio signal. And whatever's under the threshold remains unprocessed. Now that we know those two basic functions, let's get into this example so we can further explain those two and the rest of those basic functions. Let's get into it. So let's go ahead and hear this vocal uncompressed once again.
I bet you this to get you off my checklist. My dogs, I'm running wild, them people reckless. My people want it all in this song. Them things up on my side, they come in tandems.
As you can hear, you hear those softer parts, and then we hear those louder peaks. So what are we gonna do, guys? We're gonna get a compressor. In our case, we're gonna be working with the RComp, which is a compressor that comes from Waves Audio, which is a third-party plugin. But the reason why we're really using this is because it comes with all those basic functions. And not only that, but it sounds really good. It has a great tone and great character and is used by many of the top engineers today. So that's what we're gonna be using, all right? As you can see, we have this dialed in right here, all right, guys? So what I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys is how these things work together. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring these back to 0 and we're gonna start dialing this in so you can understand how these work together in conjunction. So I'm gonna bring you to the mind of myself. I know that I'm gonna wanna compress this vocal moderately, all right? That's where I wanna start, and from there, we can start playing with levels and seeing where we really want it to end up. So we're gonna do a 4:1 ratio, which basically says for every 4 dBs it goes over the threshold, we want it to allow 1 to come through. Which also means 3 dB was reduced during this compression. Understood? Now ratios could be set in a bunch of different variations. For instance, you've probably heard 2:1, 4:1, 8:1. Now what does this mean? 1:1 is basically unity gain, which means there's no attenuation at all. 2:1 is very light compression. It's gonna allow more dynamics to come through, okay? 4:1 begins to get more moderately compressed. 8:1, we're starting to get more heavily compressed. And 20:1, we're starting to reach those limiting levels, all right? Now, we got that set. The next thing that we're gonna do is set our threshold. If your threshold is at 0 it is gonna be doing nothing. It's not compressing anything. It is not working. So remember, the threshold says when to engage, when to start compressing our vocal. Let's get into it.
I bet you this to get you off my checklist. My dogs are running wild, them people reckless. My people want it all in this song. Them things up on my side, they come in tandems. I bet you just to get you off my checklist. My dogs ain't running wild, them people reckless.
As you can hear, we're already starting to compress that vocal very, very well. Listen, all we did was move the ratio and threshold, all right? Now, what I'm gonna do is bring the threshold back up and bring it back down, and I want you guys to hear how this starts to engage. Let's get into it.
I bet you this to get you off my checklist. My dogs are running wild, them people reckless. My people want it all in this song. Them things up on my side, they come in tandems. I bet you just to get you off my checklist. My dogs ain't running wild, them people reckless. My people want it all in this song.
Now you're really starting to hear this be compressed. Now, as this is compressing, you have to understand that we are overall bringing our volume levels down. So that's when we're going to start using our makeup gain to compensate for the loss of volume levels. So we're going to start bringing it up so that we're able to start fitting this back into the mix. So let's start dialing our makeup gain as we listen to our track as a whole.
I bet you this to get you off my checklist. My dogs are running wild, them people reckless. My people want it all in this song. Them things up on my side, they come in tandems. I bet you just to get you off my checklist. My dogs ain't running wild, them people reckless.
Sounds amazing. We're halfway there. Next, we have to understand attack and release. Attack is basically saying, listen, after we hit this threshold, how fast do we want this compressor to actually work? How fast do we want to engage this compressor to hit those transients? Now, what's transients? Transients are basically that beginning punch of each of those phrases. Those are transients, okay? That's what we're gonna wanna control. That's basically what the attack is. Our release is saying, listen, how long do we actually wanna hold this compression once engaged, all right? Now, for you to really start to get this concept, I'm going to over-exaggerate both the attack and the release and listen to the characteristic of the vocal change. Let's listen to it.
I bet you this to get you off my checklist. My dogs are running wild, them people reckless. My people want it all in this song. Them things up on my side, they come in tandems. I bet you just to get you off my checklist. My dogs ain't running wild, them people reckless. My people want it all in this song.
As you've heard, when we make the attack very slow, in this case 500, we start to hear a lot of transients, which gives us a feeling of aggressiveness. Our vocal becomes more aggressive, punchier, more just bold. Now, when we sped up our attack, made it the fastest that we could, we started to feel more smoothness, more just silky smooth, no transients coming through. It's, why do they want to get you on my checklist? Why don't they want to wild the people like this? And then, when it was a slow attack, why don't they bother me to my bag? My dogs are running wild them back. It was just much more transients coming through with the slower attack, and with the faster attack, very smooth, okay? Now, that's just showing you how this changes the characteristics. Let's do the same thing with our release. Listen to the characteristics.
I bet you this to get you off my checklist. My dogs are running wild, them people reckless. My people want it all in this song. Them things up on my side, they come in tandems. I bet you just to get you off my checklist. My dogs ain't running wild, them people reckless. My people want it all in this song.
All right, when it's a faster release, we get a more aggressive tone because we're releasing that compression as soon as it's basically being engaged. Now, vice versa, when it's a very slow release, we're holding that compression, so it gives us a smooth vocal. Now, the key is to work with these in conjunction so we can find that sweet spot. So what we're gonna do right now is dial this in and listen for where this feels right. We're looking for where it feels right. Not necessarily where it sounds muted and soloed out. You want it to feel right within your overall track, because at the end of the day, we are not compressing to hear an acapella. We are compressing so that it can find its space within our overall track. So we're gonna dial it in right now. Let's get into it. We're gonna start with attack and then go to our release and find where it feels right. Let's get into it.
I bet you this to get you off my checklist. My dogs are running wild, them people reckless. My people want it all in this song. Them things up on my side, they come in tandems. I bet you just to get you off my checklist. My dogs ain't running wild, them people reckless. My people want it all in this song. It is song.
So basically, I feel very comfortable where this is at right now, okay? We have our attack at 9, which is a pretty fast attack still, and we have our release somewhere in the middle, okay? The reason why we chose our attack to be here is because I like a little bit of that transient coming through. It gives it a kind of a aggressiveness, okay? But not too aggressive to where it starts to sound wild and just abrupt. It just has just enough to where I feel like, yo, this is what I'm going for. This vocal, the words I'm saying, it matches, it feels right. Just a tad of aggression. And our release, I like that it's being held a little bit longer, but not too long to where it's too smooth. I like it being smooth because this is a melodic vocal, so that's what I'm going for. So I want it to be smooth, but not too smooth to where it sounds like it's just overly compressed, all right? Now, if you still don't understand compression, I'm gonna break it down for you in a more simpler way, okay? Compression is basically like any authority figure, okay? Whether that's your mom, your dad, grandparents, or who knows, anything, any authority figure, okay? And you're listening to music. Your threshold is basically the volume that the authority figure, in our case, our mother, wants us to keep the volume at. But you know, we young and we want to bang our music, so we're gonna turn it up. Now the ratio is how much we turn down the music when she starts to shout at us, right? She starts to yell, we're like, okay, let's turn down the music back here, all right? Now, the attack is how fast we turn it down, right? So she might be saying, TheWavMan, turn that music. And then I turn it down, right? So that's like let's say a medium. Let's say that's a medium attack. Now, if she's like, faster attack, okay? TheWavMan, I told you, turn that music down. And then I start to turn it down, that's gonna be a slow attack, okay? So the attack in this case is how fast we turn our music down once we start to hear that shout, okay? And the release is gonna be how fast we turn the music back up after she closes the door and leaves our room, all right? Simply said, guys, that is compression in a nutshell. Now, before we go, I wanna give you a couple tips to make sure that you start to play around with as you progress with your compression, all right? The first tip I wanna tell you guys is, instead of having one compressor do all the work as we did in this example, try spreading the work out between 3 or 4 compressors. This is something that I do a lot, and I'll make a video going deeper into this, why I use multiple compressors. But like I said, allow the first compressor to do a little bit of the work, second compressor to do a little bit more, and a little bit more. Whatever feels and sounds right, okay? The second thing I want to say is very easy to over compress, guys. Nothing is wrong with dynamics, so try not to over compress your vocals, okay? Listen, you already know who it is, man. It's your boy Q, aka TheWavMan, and we are here with the Wave Monopoly to bring you nothing but heat. Right? And look, if you want to learn some more, just go down my page, man. Go down the playlist. You know where to find your music knowledge at, man. Look, you already know who it is, man. It's your boy Q, aka TheWavMan, here with TheWavMonopoly.com. And until next time.